There's nothing worse than getting into a fight in Fortnite, freezing up, and watching your brain start to spin in every direction. Your heart starts racing, you try to guess what your opponent's next move will be, and in doing that, you completely lose track of your own. That moment of hesitation, that split second of overthinking, costs you the entire fight and the entire match. And it doesn't just happen once, it keeps happening over and over. It feels like no matter how much you practice, how many creative maps you run, how many VODs you watch, something about real fights always throw your brain into panic mode. But here's the thing, you're not alone. Almost every Fortnite player deals with overthinking during fights at some point. The real question is, how do you fix it? Overthinking is one of the biggest enemies of mechanical skill. You could be the best piece control player on your friends list, with perfect crosshair placement and lightning fast edits. But if you hesitate in game, all that practice means nothing. What makes overthinking so dangerous is that it doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it disguises itself as trying to make the perfect play. You sit on height, overanalyzing every angle, waiting for the perfect edit opportunity or the perfect peek. And by the time you actually go for something, it's way too late. You've already given your opponent time to reset, heal, or reposition. The fight is no longer in your control. The truth is, overthinking comes from a lack of trust in yourself, and breaking out of that habit starts with rebuilding that trust one fight at a time. A huge part of overthinking in fights comes from trying to predict everything. You start to think, what if they cone me here? Or what if they edit out the side? Or what if I make the wrong edit and get one pumped? It's a mental snowball that keeps rolling. But here's the reality, you'll never be able to actually predict every possible outcome. Fortnite fights are chaotic by nature. The more you try to mentally map out every single move, the more likely you are to freeze up. What you need to do instead is narrow your focus. Instead of thinking about every possibility, start focusing only on the next logical move, one step at a time. Get a wall, cone above, look for an angle, reset, repeat. That simple loop of action and reaction is where most fights are actually won. You also have to understand that overthinking isn't just about the fight. It often starts before you even shoot your first bullet. For example, if you're rotating and see a player boxed up, you might start thinking, should I fight this? What if they're better than me? What if they're baiting me? And before you know it, you already started the fight in your head without even pulling up. That kind of mental clutter leads to panic the moment the fight actually starts. So if you want to stop overthinking, you need to learn how to make fast, confident decisions. Either commit or don't, but don't sit in the middle. That's where the fear and hesitation grows. Confidence isn't always about being right, it's about making a decision and backing it up with your action no matter what. Another massive cause of overthinking in fights is focusing too much on the outcome instead of the process. You go into the fight thinking, I can't lose this, or I need this kill for Surge, or if I die here, I'm out of the tournament. And the pressure builds. That pressure leads to hesitation, and the hesitation leads to mistakes. You have to detach yourself from the outcome. Not every fight needs to be perfect. Not every fight needs to go your way. What matters more is that you fight with clarity. Go in with a plan, react in real time, and let the chips fall where they may. That mindset shift alone can reduce a massive amount of overthinking and help you stay locked in on what actually is happening in the moment. Let's talk about muscle memory for a second. One of the biggest tools to fight overthinking is training your body to move even when your brain starts to panic. That means running drills and creative, not just to get faster, but to automate certain sequences. You want your fingers to do the right thing even when your mind starts to doubt. When you practice 1v1 fights, start paying attention to how often you pause or hesitate. If you find yourself thinking too much, simplify the fight and simplify those moves. Go for 1 or 2 clean sequences instead of trying to out-edit someone 5 moves ahead. Build muscle memory around those sequences so that when you're in the real game, they happen naturally without your brain getting in the way. One of the best things you can do to stop overthinking is to accept that you're going to make mistakes. Overthinking comes from a fear of failure. So if you can make peace with failure, a lot of the pressure actually disappears. Every fight doesn't need to be won, every edit doesn't need to be perfect. If you lose a fight, cool. What can you learn from it? The players who stop overthinking are the ones who treat every fight as information. They adapt, they get curious instead of afraid. Instead of saying, I'm so bad I choked, they say, what caused that hesitation? That mindset allows you to learn faster, improve more consistently, and build your confidence in your own reactions. Now, let's talk about the internal dialogue going on in your head during a fight. You might not even realize how much you talk to yourself out of good plays. That little voice that says, don't go in for that peek, you're going to get hit, or you mess that edit up, now you're going to get full pieced. Those thoughts feel like they're keeping you safe, but they're actually making you slower and more fearful. You need to replace those thoughts with simple, direct commands. Edit, shoot, reset, build up. Short phrases that keep you grounded in action. The less you think, the faster you actually move. You're not trying to outsmart your opponent with overanalysis, you're trying to outplay them with confidence and timing. A lot of overthinking also comes from comparing yourself to others. You see pros fight so cleanly and think, why can't I actually do that? But what you don't realize is that pros have spent thousands of hours making their reactions second nature. They don't go into fights and pause to consider every angle. They just go and do it. They fail failed enough times to trust their own instincts. So instead of comparing yourself to someone at the top, focus on building your own decision-making process. Start small, go into creative and take fights where you don't worry about the result. Force yourself to play fast. At first you'll mess up a lot, but the more you push through the discomfort, the less your brain will feel the need to slow everything down. And let's not forget about nerves. So many players overthink in fights because they're nervous, and those nerves usually come from playing in high-stakes situations, like tournaments or endgames. In those moments, your body goes into a fight or flight mode. Your hands get shaky, your vision narrows, your brain fuds with worst-case scenarios. The only way to calm those nerves is to normalize them. Put yourself in pressure situations as much as possible. Play scrims, play late-game arena stuff in creative, play tournaments even if you don't feel ready. The more you expose yourself to the pressure, the more your brain learns to regulate it. Eventually, those nerves won't trigger as much overthinking. They'll just be background noise. And if you're struggling with overthinking in fights, one of the best things you can do is watch your own VODs. I say this in every single video, but don't just look at the fight you lose, watch the ones where you hesitated. Ask yourself, what was I thinking right there? Try to pinpoint the exact moment your thoughts slowed down your actions. Then imagine how the fight could have gone if you just acted instead of thought. This type of reflection helps you build self-awareness and makes it easier to break the habit in the future games. It's not about being perfect once again, it's about becoming aware of the patterns that are holding you back. Before we move into one of the most important concepts, let me plug something that can actually help you speed up this process for you: my Discord server, the Flow Improvement Hub. It's packed with free resources, drop maps, and even coaches who can help you train your decision making. We've helped hundreds of players stop freezing in fights, improve their confidence, and finally start winning fights they used to lose. If you're serious about getting better, join through the link in the description. It's completely free, and I promise it will change the way you play the game. Now, let's dive into the idea of aggression as clarity. A lot of players think being aggressive means playing recklessly, but in reality, the most aggressive players are usually the clearest thinkers. They don't overthink because they're already committed to action. When you decide to play aggressively, you're forcing your brain to stay in motion. You don't have time to second guess. You take the wall, you make the edit, you go for the shot. That forward momentum keeps your brain from slipping into fear-based overthinking. So if you're constantly freezing in fights, try leaning into aggression. Not because it's always the smartest play, but because it builds mental momentum. But let's be real sometimes. Even the most confident players will overthink when they're up against someone clearly better. That's when the mental side of the game really shows up. You need to remind yourself that outplays don't come from being perfect. They come from doing something different. That might mean editing at a weird angle, disengaging when they expect you to fight, or going for a fast peek because they're ready. Unpredictability forces your opponent to react, and the second they start reacting to you, you've gained total control of the fight. Even in fights you shouldn't win, if you stay proactive and stop doubting your decisions, you'd be surprised how many times you can turn the tables. Overthinking is also connected to perfectionism. You might tell yourself, I can't go for this edit unless it's clean, or I need the perfect timing to peak. That mindset might sound smart, but it slows you down. Once again, you're not aiming to be perfect, you're aiming to be effective. In FORTNITE fights, it's better to make a slightly messy play quickly than a perfect play too late. Speed beats precision in most close range fights, so start giving yourself permission to play a little messy. You'll find that the more you move, the more your brain learns to adapt on the fly, and the less you feel trapped by hesitation. Another underrated factor that feeds overthinking is your burnout. If you're playing for hours and hours without breaks, your brain starts to fry, literally fry. You can't process information as quickly, your reactions get slower, and suddenly every fight feels harder than it should. Sometimes the reason you're overthinking isn't just mental, it's just exhaustion. If you notice this happening, take breaks. Actually go outside and touch grass, move your body, give your brain a chance to reset. When you come back fresh, you'll find that your reactions feel sharper, your thoughts clearer, and your gameplay more fluid. Recovery is a part of the process, just like in anything in life. At the end of the day, stopping overthinking isn't about being a robot. It's about playing from a place of trust. Trust in your mechanics, trust in your experience, trust in your ability to learn and improve. The fights that scare you now will be the fights you dominate later, if you're willing to push through the mental noise. The goal isn't to eliminate all doubt. The goal is to keep moving even when the doubt shows up. That's how you build momentum, that's how you stop overthinking, and that's how you start winning fights that used to break you. So the next time you feel your brain starting to spin in the middle of a FORTNITE fight, pause, take a breath, tell yourself, edit, shoot, build. Focus on action, not your outcome. Stop trying to fight perfectly, start fighting confidently. That's the real unlock. If you made it this far, drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below if you're someone who struggles with overthinking. Let's talk about it. And don't forget, if you want to actually fix this and start winning more fights fast, join the Flow Improvement Hub Discord, linked in the description, or just search up discord.gg/flowin. It's free and it might be the best decision you make all season. And of course, if you want to support the content, use code FLOWIN in the FORTNITE item shop. I love you all. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, guys.